When my husband died and left me childless, I thought my parents would be my last family. They didn't cry at his funeral. They didn't hug me. They just stared at me like I was a failure. But 6 months later, they took my inheritance and gave it to my sister because I didn't give them grandkids. I'm Ruth, and what happened next will make your blood boil. If you're watching this right now, stop. Drop your city in the comments. I read every single one. It proves I'm not talking to empty walls. Like this video and subscribe to AuntyMaeDiary right now. Before you hear one more word. Because what my parents did next, and how I made them beg, will leave you speechless. Don't move. This ends with revenge. The day my husband James died, the sky over Savannah, Georgia, was gray and heavy. The air smelled like wet moss and river mud. I sat in the front pew of St. Mary's Church, my black dress sticking to my skin, my hands folded tight. James had been gone 2 hours, heart attack at 65, and I was already alone. My parents, Harold and Evelyn, sat 2 rows back. Harold in his Sunday suit, Evelyn clutching her Bible. No tears. No arms around me, just stares. I felt them like needles. After the service, people came up. "Ruth, we're so sorry. James was a good man." "God bless you, honey." I nodded, said thank you, kept my eyes down. Then Harold walked over. His voice was low, flat. "We need to talk about the will, tomorrow, my house. 10 sharp. No hug, no, how you holding up? Just business." I went home to the little riverfront house James and I bought in 1985. White clapboard, creaky porch, Spanish moss hanging low. The silence hit me hard. No footsteps, no coffee pot hissing. Just the Savannah River rolling slow outside the window. I opened his closet. His shirts still smelled like him, soap and sawdust. I pressed one to my face and cried until my throat hurt. Next morning I drove to my parents' place on East Jones Street. Big old house, wraparound porch, rocking chairs that never moved. Evelyn opened the door in her church dress. Harold was already at the dining table, papers spread out. Mr. Jenkins, the family lawyer, sat beside him. Thin hair, thick glasses, nervous fingers. "Sit, Ruth," Harold said. I sat. Evelyn didn't look at me. Mr. Jenkins cleared his throat. "James left a will. Dated 2018. Everything, house, savings, life insurance, goes to Lila." My stomach dropped. Lila, my younger sister, 58, 3 kids. Married to a dentist. Lives in Atlanta. I stared at Harold. "What?" He didn't blink. "You heard him? Lila gets it all." I turned to Mr. Jenkins. "That's not right. James told me." "Paper don't lie," Harold cut in. "You got no kids, Ruth. No legacy. Lila's got 3 grandbabies. Bloodline matters." Evelyn finally spoke, voice sharp. "You had 30 years to give us grandkids." "You didn't. Lila did. Simple." My hands shook. James wanted me to have the house. "We talked about it." Harold leaned forward. "Talk don't pay bills. Lila's raising the next generation. You're empty." The word hit like a slap. Empty. I stood up. Chair scraped loud. "You're stealing from me. From your own daughter." Evelyn sniffed. "We're correcting a mistake." James was confused at the end. "We fixed it." Mr. Jenkins wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at the will. Lila's name in bold. My name nowhere. I grabbed my purse. "You'll hear from me." Harold laughed. Cold, short. "With what, Ruth?" "You got nothing now." I drove home in a daze. The river looked muddy, angry. I parked, walked inside, and locked the door. Then I opened James's Bible, the one on his nightstand. He read it every night. I flipped through. A folded paper fell out. I opened it. James's handwriting. "To my Ruth, if anything happens to me, everything is yours. House savings, $380,000. Insurance, $250,000. Lila gets nothing. She already took enough when we helped her through college. My parents-in-law are wrong. Childless don't mean worthless. You are my legacy. Love always. James 2018. My breath stopped. The real will, hidden, protected, from them. I held it to my chest and cried, not from pain this time. From power tongue. That night, I called Mr. Jenkins. I found the real will. James hid it in his Bible. Silence. Then, "Ruth, your parents paid me $25,000 to file a new one. Said you'd never fight." I gripped the phone. "Meet me tomorrow, my house. Bring the fake will, or I go to the bar association." He whispered, "Okay." I hung up, sat on the porch. The river rolled slow. Crickets loud, air thick. I looked at James's empty rocking chair. "They thought I was empty," I said to the night. But I'm about to fill this town with their shame. Mr. Jenkins shows up shaking, with a check, a confession, and a secret my parents paid to bury. You won't believe what he says next. The next morning I woke up at 5. The house was quiet. James's side of the bed still cold. I made coffee, black, no sugar. Sat at the kitchen table with the real will in front of me. The paper was yellowed, folded tight. James's handwriting clear. $380,000 savings. $250,000 life insurance. The house. All mine. I stared at the fake will Harold showed me yesterday. Lila's name in bold, my name erased. I picked up the phone, called Mr. Jenkins at 7:02 a.m. Meet me at my house, 8 sharp. Bring the fake will. Bring the check they gave you, or I call the state bar today. He didn't argue, just said, I'll be there. I hung up, drank the coffee. Burned my tongue. Didn't care. At 7:58, his old Buick pulled up. White paint chipped. He got out slow, briefcase in hand, face pale. Sweat on his forehead even though it was cool. I opened the door before he knocked. Inside. He stepped in. Smelled like old paper and fear. We sat at the kitchen table. I pushed James's real will across. He read it, eyes wide. That's the original, he whispered. You forged a new one, I said. For $25,000. He nodded, opened his briefcase. Pulled out a yellow legal pad. A check, the fake will. I wrote it myself, he said. Harold and Evelyn came to my office 3 days after James died. Said you were unstable. Said Lila needed it more. Said you'd never fight. I took the check. $25,000. Made out to cash. Harold's signature. You took blood money, I said. He looked down. I needed it. My wife's sick. Hospital bills. Don't care, I said. You're fixing this, today. He swallowed hard. How? You're going to the bank. You're moving every dime back into my name. You're filing the real will. You're telling the truth. Or this, I held up the check and fake will, goes to the bar, and the newspaper, and the church bulletin. He nodded fast. I'll do it. We drove to First Savannah Bank in his car. I sat in the passenger seat. Didn't speak. He kept glancing at me. At the bank, he went to the manager's office. I waited in the lobby. 20 minutes later, he came out with papers. Done, he said. $380,000 transferred. Insurance deposited. House title in your name only. I took the papers. Checked every line. Good, I said. Now the will. We went to the courthouse. He filed the real will, stamped, official. Lila's name erased. Back at my house, I made him sit again. Tell me everything, I said. From the start. He wiped his forehead with a handkerchief. Harold called me the day James died. Said Ruth's barren. No kids, no future. Lila's the real heir. Evelyn cried, fake tears. Said you'd waste the money. Said Lila had grandbabies to raise. I clenched my fists. They brought photos, he said. Lila's kids, grandkids, said, this is legacy. Then Harold wrote the check. $25,000 cash. Said, file this new will. Burn the old one. I did it. I leaned forward. You burned James's last words? He nodded. In my backyard. With lighter fluid. I stood up. Walked to the window. Looked at the river. Slow, brown, calm. You're going to write a letter, I said. To the church, to the newspaper, to Lila, telling exactly what you did and why. He started shaking. They'll ruin me. You ruined me first, I said. Now you fix it. That afternoon, I drove to Lila's house in Atlanta. 4 hours. I didn't call ahead. She opened the door in yoga pants and a smile. Ruth, what are you? I held up the real will. This is what James wanted. Not you. Her face went white. Behind her, her husband Mark appeared. What's going on? I stepped inside. Didn't wait to be invited. Your parents stole from me, I said. Forged a will. Paid Mr. Jenkins to lie. But it's over. Leela grabbed the will. Read it. Her hands shook. This can't be real, she said. It is, I said. And the money? Already back in my name. The house? Mine. You get nothing. Mark looked at Lila. You knew? She didn't answer. I turned to leave. Oh, and Mom and Dad? They're broke. Spent your inheritance on a failed B&B. They'll be calling you soon. I walked out. Didn't look back. That night my phone rang. Harold. Ruth, what did you do? His voice cracked. I took back what's mine, I said. You can't. I already did. Bank, courthouse, all legal. Your fake will? Burned. Just like you burned James's. Silence. Then Evelyn in the background crying. Real tears this time. Harold again, weaker. We made a mistake. No, I said. You made a choice. Now live with it. I hung up. I sat on the porch. The river rolled slow. Crickets loud. Air thick with moss and night. James's rocking chair moved in the breeze. I smiled. They thought I was empty, I whispered. But I just filled their mouths with dirt. I hung up on Harold and set the phone face down on the table. The house was quiet again. The river outside kept moving, slow and brown. I opened the freezer, took out a frozen dinner, and stuck it in the microwave. Chicken and rice. James hated frozen food, but it was all I had left. The timer beeped. I ate standing up, staring at the wall. 2 days later, the mail came. A thick envelope from the bank. I opened it. Statements. My name on every line. $380,000 savings. $250,000 insurance. The house deed in my name only. I folded them neat and put them in the drawer with James's real will. That afternoon, I drove to the grocery store. Mrs. Carter from church was at the checkout. She saw me and smiled small. Ruth, heard about the will mess. You okay? I nodded. Fixed now. She leaned in. Your parents been bragging about that B&B they bought with Lila's money. Said it's going to be fancy. Riverview. Already spent $200,000. My stomach tightened. $200,000. From my money, I paid for my bread and milk and left. The next week, I got a call from Lila. I let it ring 4 times before I answered. Ruth, we need to talk. Talk. She sighed loud. Mom and Dad put everything into the B renovations, furniture, advertising. It's not going well. Guests aren't coming. They're behind on payments. I said nothing. They're asking if you can help. Just a loan. $50,000. I laughed. Short, sharp. Tell them to sell the rocking chairs. I hung up. 3 weeks later, the foreclosure notice came in the mail. Not to me, to Harold and Evelyn. Their house on East Jones Street. Bank taking it in 30 days. I read it twice. Then I called the auction house. Asked when the sale was. They said next Saturday. Public auction. Starting bid $180,000. I had $380,000 in the bank. I went to the bank the next day. Transferred $200,000 to a new checking account. Got a cashier's check ready. Saturday morning, I put on a plain gray dress and drove to the courthouse steps. The auction was outside. 20 people standing around. Harold and Evelyn were there, in the back, heads down. Lila stood next to them, arms crossed. The auctioneer started. Lot 12, 412 East Jones Street. 3-bedroom, wraparound porch. Starting bid $180,000. A man in a suit raised his paddle. $80,000. I raised mine. $185,000. The man looked at me. Raised again. $190,000. I raised $195,000. He stopped. The auctioneer looked around. Going once, twice. Sold to the lady in gray. Harold looked up, saw me. His mouth opened, no sound. I walked over to the clerk. Paid with the cashier's check. Got the keys. The deed would come in the mail. Lila grabbed my arm. You can't do this. I pulled away. Watch me. That night I drove to my parents' house. Their house. My house now. The porch light was on. Boxes on the steps. Harold loading an old lamp into his truck. I parked, got out. Evelyn saw me first. Her face went white. Ruth. I held up the keys. New owner. Harold dropped the lamp. It cracked. You bought it? At auction. Fair and square. Evelyn started crying. Where are we gonna go? I looked at the garage. Separate. 1 room. Small bathroom. You can stay in the garage. Rent-free. But you clean it first. And you call me ma'am. Harold's hands shook. We're your parents. Were, I said. Now you're tenants. I left them standing there. Drove home. The river was dark. I sat on the porch. Rocked in James's chair. The phone rang. Harold again. Ruth, please. We're sorry. We'll pay rent. We'll do anything. I let him talk. Then I said, clean the garage. Move in tomorrow. I'll leave the key under the mat. I hung up. The next day, I watched from my car across the street. Harold and Evelyn carried boxes into the garage. Lila helped. No one spoke. I smiled, small. They thought I was empty. Now they lived in my shed. The next morning, I woke up at 6. The house was quiet. I made coffee, black, no sugar. Drank it on the porch. The river was calm. Spanish moss hung low. I looked at the clock. 6:45. Time to go. I drove to East Jones Street. My house now. Harold's truck was in the driveway. Boxes still on the steps. The garage door was open. Evelyn was inside, sweeping. Harold carried a mattress. I parked, got out, walked up the path. Evelyn saw me, stopped sweeping. "Morning, ma'am," she said. Voice flat. I nodded. "Garage clean?" "Yes, ma'am." I walked inside. One room, small bed, hot plate, mini fridge, bathroom with a shower stall. Smelled like bleach. Harold put the mattress down, looked at me. "Ma'am," he said. I handed him a list, written on yellow paper. Mow lawn every Saturday. Clean gutters every month. Take trash to curb Tuesday night. No visitors after 9 p.m. Call me ma'am, always. He read it, folded it, put it in his pocket. "Yes, ma'am." I watched from the porch, rocking in James's chair. One night Evelyn knocked, 7:42 p.m. I opened the door. She held a small box. "Found this in the attic. Thought you'd want it." I opened it. James's old watch. The one he wore every day. Stopped at 3:17 the time he died. I closed the box. "Thank you." She nodded. Went back to the garage. Month 4, Harold got sick. Cough, fever. Doctor said pneumonia. I paid the bill. Won $200. He stayed in the garage. Evelyn nursed him. Soup, medicine, wet cloths. I brought groceries. Left them on the step. He got better, slow. He walked to my porch. Stood at the bottom step. "Ma'am," he said. "May I speak?" I nodded. He looked at the ground. "We were wrong. About the money. About you. About everything. Childless don't mean worthless. You're our daughter. We failed you." I said nothing. He waited. I said, "Keep following the list." He nodded, went back. Month 6. The garage was clean, painted, organized. Flowers bloomed in the beds. Porch rails white. I added one last line to the list. Say grace before every meal. Thank God for Ruth. They did. I sat on the porch every evening. River slow. Crickets loud. Air thick. Harold mowed. Evelyn watered flowers. They called me ma'am. I rocked in James's chair. They thought I was empty. Now their shame lived in my garage. The next morning I woke up at 5:12. The house was dark. The river outside was black, no moon. I made coffee, strong, black, no sugar. I drank it standing at the sink, staring at the garage across the yard. The light was on. Harold was up, coughing. I heard it through the wall. I put on jeans, a plain blue shirt, and my work boots. I walked outside. The grass was wet, cold. I opened the garage side door without knocking. Harold was on the small bed, shirt off, ribs showing. Evelyn sat beside him with a wet cloth on his head. He looked at me, eyes red. "Ma'am," he rasped. I didn't speak. I walked to the hot plate, turned it on, put water in a pot, got 2 eggs from the mini fridge, cracked them in, added salt, no butter. They had none. Evelyn watched me, said nothing. I stirred the eggs, scraped them onto a paper plate, handed it to Harold. "Eat." He took it with shaking hands, ate slow. I looked at Evelyn. "Doctor at 9. I'm driving." She nodded fast. At 8:47 I pulled my truck up to the garage. Harold walked out slow. Evelyn helped him. He wore the same gray pants, now too big. Belt on the last hole. I opened the passenger door. He climbed in. Evelyn got him back. We drove to Dr. Patel's office. 10 minutes. No one talked. In the waiting room, Harold coughed into a tissue. Blood spots, small, red. Dr. Patel called him in. I stayed outside. Evelyn sat beside me. Hands in lap. 20 minutes later, Dr. Patel came out. Pneumonia again. Worse. Needs hospital. IV antibiotics. 3 days minimum. 4,800. I stood up. Write the order. Evelyn grabbed my arm. "Ruth, we can't." "I pay," I said. "But he stays in my name. My insurance. My rules." She let go. At the hospital, they put Harold in a room on the 3rd floor. White walls. Beeping machines. IV in his arm. Oxygen in his nose. I signed the papers. Ruth M. Grayson, responsible party. The nurse asked, "Relation?" "Daughter," I said. Harold looked at me, eyes wet. Day 2 in the hospital, Lila showed up. Hair messy, no makeup, eyes swollen. She walked into the room fast. "Mom, Dad, I'm here." Evelyn hugged her. Harold tried to sit up. Lila looked at me. "Ruth." I didn't move. She pulled a folder from her bag. "The B&B is gone. Bank took it. Mark filed for divorce. Took the kids. I have $47 in my account." I said nothing. She opened the folder. Papers, red stamps, foreclosure, default, repossession. My car, gone. My house, gone. Everything. Harold coughed. Lila, she cried. I believed you. You said Ruth didn't deserve it. You said I was the real heir. Evelyn looked down. I stepped forward. You spent my money, $200,000 on paint and pillows. Now you're broke. Lila wiped her face. Let me stay in the garage, please. I looked at Harold, then Evelyn. There's one cot left, I said. You sleep on the floor. Lila nodded fast. Yes, anything. Day 3, Harold got discharged, weak, thin, oxygen tank on wheels. I drove them home. Lila followed in a rental car, paid by the day. At the house, I opened the garage. One cot, one mattress, one hot plate. Harold sat on the cot, Evelyn on the mattress, Lila on the floor with a blanket. I handed Lila a new list. Clean the main house every Monday. Cook dinner every night. Laundry every Tuesday. Grocery shop every Thursday. Walk. No phone after 10 p.m. Call me ma'am, always. Lila read it. Tears fell on the paper. Yes, ma'am. Week 1, Lila cleaned the main house. Scrubbed floors on her knees. Washed windows with vinegar. Dust flew. Harold watched from the garage door. Couldn't help. Too weak. Evelyn cooked. Burned the rice. Started over. I ate at the big table. Alone. They ate in the garage. Week 2, the church ladies came again. This time to the garage. Mrs. Carter brought a casserole. Mrs. Lane brought bread. Mrs. Grady brought soup. They saw Lila on the floor. Harold on the cot. Evelyn at the hot plate. Mrs. Carter gasped. This is your family? I stood in the doorway. They stole from me. Forged James's will. Paid a lawyer to lie. Spent my money. Now they work. Mrs. Lane cried, We'll tell everyone. I nodded. Tell them Ruth owns the house. Ruth owns the rules. They left. Hugged me. Didn't hug Harold or Evelyn. Week 3, the newspaper called. Savannah Morning News. Ms. Grayson, we heard about the will forgery. The auction. Your parents living in the garage. Can we interview you? I said, come tomorrow. 10 a.m. They came. 2 reporters. 1 camera. I sat on the porch. James's chair. They asked questions. Why did they do it? Because I'm childless. They said I had no legacy. What did you do? Found the real will. Took back my money. Bought their house. Made them tenants. What now? They work for me. Clean, cook, mow, call me ma'am. The camera rolled. Harold watched from the garage, head down. Lila cried inside. Evelyn burned dinner again. The story ran front page. Local widow reclaims inheritance. Parents live in garage. Photo, me on the porch. Harold mowing. Lila scrubbing steps. Evelyn hanging laundry. The town exploded. Church canceled Harold's deacon title. For good. Lila's friends stopped calling. Mark filed full custody. 1. Week 4, Harold got worse. Coughing blood. I took him back to the hospital. Dr. Patel said, lungs failing. Needs oxygen full time. $1,200 a month. I paid. Bought the tank. The tubes. The machine. Delivered it to the garage. Harold sat on the cot. Mask on his face. Eyes closed. Evelyn held his hand. Lila cooked soup. Burned it. Started over. I stood in the door. Keep the tank clean, I said. Or I take it back. They nodded. Month 2, Lila got a job. Waitress at the River Diner. 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. minimum wage. Tips. She walked. 2 miles. Every day. Came home dirty. Feet blistered. Cooked dinner, cleaned, slept on the floor. Harold couldn't work anymore. Sat in the garage. Stared at the wall. Evelyn did laundry by hand. Hung it on a line. I added to the list. Lila pays $100 rent every Friday. Cash. No TV, no radio. Lights out at 9 p.m. Lila cried when she read it. Gave me $100 every week. From tips. Month 3, the bank called. Lila's old house in Atlanta. Final auction tomorrow. Starting bid $120,000. I said, I'll be there. I drove to Atlanta. 6 hours. Stood in the crowd. Raised my paddle. Bought it for $135,000. Now I own 2 houses. Lila's old home. My parents' home. Both paid with my money. I came back. I told Lila. She sat on the floor, head in hands. You own my house? Yes. What happens to me? You keep working. Keep paying rent. Keep calling me ma'am. She nodded. Month 4, Harold stopped eating. Lost 20 pounds. Skin and bones. Dr. Patel said, end stage. Weeks left. I paid for hospice nurse, twice a week. Evelyn sat by his bed, held his hand. Lila cooked broth, fed him with a spoon. I stood in the door. Harold looked at me. Ruth, he whispered. Forgive? I said, clean the tank. Feed the man. Call me ma'am. He closed his eyes. Month 5, the church held a meeting. About me. Reverend Paul called. Ruth, people want to help your parents. Say you're too hard. I said, tell them to read the newspaper. Tell them to ask Mr. Jenkins. Tell them to ask Lila. He sighed. They're old, sick. They stole when they were strong, I said. Now they pay when they're weak. Month 6, Harold died. Quiet. In the garage. 3:17 a.m. Same time as James. Evelyn found him, called me. I came over. He was cold. Eyes closed. Oxygen mask still on. I called the funeral home. Paid $3,200, simple casket. No flowers. Buried him next to James. Lila and Evelyn stood at the grave. No tears. I stood apart. After, I said, garage is yours. Keep working. Keep the list. They nodded. Now it was just Evelyn and Lila. Evelyn cooked, cleaned, sat quiet. Lila worked, walked, paid rent. I added one final line to the list. Every Sunday, read James's real will out loud. In the garage, to each other. They did. Every Sunday. I listened from the porch. They thought I was empty. Now their shame was my legacy. The morning after Harold's funeral, I woke up at 4:58. The house was dead quiet. No coughing from the garage. No oxygen machine humming. Just the river outside, slow and thick. I made coffee. Black, hot. Drank it on the porch. The sky was gray. No birds. I walked to the garage, door open. Evelyn sat on the cot, staring at Harold's empty spot. Lila slept on the floor, blanket pulled to her chin. The oxygen tank stood in the corner like a dead soldier. I kicked the metal trash can. Loud, bang. Lila jumped up, eyes wide. Ma'am, she said fast. Evelyn didn't move. I pointed at the tank. Take it back today. Hospital drop-off. 9 a.m. Lila nodded. Yes, ma'am. I looked at Evelyn. You, shower, dress, work starts at 6. She blinked slow. Yes, ma'am. At 5:55, Lila pushed the oxygen tank on a dolly to my truck, strapped it in back, drove to the hospital, returned at 8:47, sweaty, dirty. I handed her a mop. Main house floors now. She took it, started scrubbing. Evelyn came out in an old dress. Hair wet, no makeup. I gave her a grocery list. $47 cash. Lila's rent money from last week. Walked to Piggly Wiggly. Back by 10, no car. Evelyn took the list. Put the money in her pocket. Walked. At 10:12 she returned. Arms full, bread, eggs, canned beans. Cheap meat. No name brands. I checked the receipt. 46.87. She kept 13 cents. I took the bags. Good. That afternoon the mail came. A letter from the Atlanta bank. Lila's old house. Final deed. Ruth M. Grayson, owner. I folded it. Put it with the others. Lila saw me. You really own it? Yes. She looked down. Can I ever go back? No. Week 1 after Harold, I added to the list. Lila sleeps on the floor every night. No mattress. Evelyn washes all windows inside and out, weekly. No talking unless spoken to. Church every Sunday. Sit him back. No speaking to anyone. They read it. Said nothing. Sunday, I drove them to church. Parked in back. Walked in late. Sat in the last pew. Reverend Paul preached about forgiveness. Mrs. Carter turned. Saw Evelyn. Saw Lila on the floor last week. Looked away. After service, people filed out. No one spoke to them. I stood by the door. Shook hands. Smiled. Mrs. Lane whispered, You're strong, Ruth. I nodded. Monday, Lila cleaned the main house. Scrubbed toilets with a toothbrush. Wiped baseboards with rags. Dust flew. Evelyn washed windows. Inside. Outside. Ladder shaking. Hands raw. I watched from the porch. Drank sweet tea. Tuesday, laundry day. Evelyn carried baskets to the laundromat. 2 miles. Walked. Washed in cold water. No dryer sheets. Hung everything on the line. Lila ironed my dresses. Church ones, work ones. Every crease perfect. Wednesday, grocery day again. $47 cash. Same list, walk. Evelyn came back. Feet bleeding. Blisters popped. I looked. Keep walking. Thursday, Lila worked at the diner. 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. came home. Cooked. Burned the beans. Started over. Evelyn set the table. Paper plates, plastic forks. I ate in the dining room, alone. They ate in the garage, standing. Friday, rent day. Lila handed me $100, tips, wrinkled bills, coins. I counted it, slow. Good. Month 2, the Atlanta house sat empty. I drove up. 6 hours. Checked it, clean, quiet. Lila's old life gone. I called a realtor. Rent it. Hope we do $100 a month. No pets, no kids. Signed the contract. Money went to my account. Back in Savannah, I added to the list. Lila pays $200 rent every Friday. Evelyn scrubs the porch steps with a toothbrush. Daily. No heat after 8 p.m. No lights after 9 p.m. Lila cried when she saw it. Gave me $200 every week. From diner tips. From pride. Month 3, winter came. Cold, damp, river fog thick. The garage had no heat. Evelyn wrapped in blankets. Teeth chattering. Lila slept on the floor. No blanket thick enough. I turned the main house heat to 75. They knocked once. 7:42 p.m. Ma'am, it's freezing. I opened the door. List says no heat after 8. It's 7:42. Wait. Close the door. Month 4, Evelyn got sick. Cough. Fever. Same as Harold. I took her to Dr. Patel. Pneumonia. Needs mids. $800. I paid. Brought her home. Garage, cot, no oxygen. Lila nursed her. Soup, water, wet cloths. I stood in the door. Keep her alive, I said. Or you're out. Lila nodded. Month 5, Evelyn got better. Slow, weak. I added to the list. Evelyn walks to the diner. Works lunch shift with Lila. Both bring home $50 tips every day. Cash. They walked. 4 miles round trip. Every day. Came home, feet raw, hands cracked. Gave me $100s every night. 50 each. I counted it. Put it in a jar. Labeled rent. Month 6, the jar had $2,400. I bought a new rocking chair. For the porch. James's old one cracked. Sat in it every night. Watched the garage. Lights out at 9. Lila and Evelyn inside. Quiet, cold, working. One night, Lila knocked. 8:57 p.m. I opened the door. She held a plate. Fried chicken, collards, cornbread. For you, ma'am. I took it. She stood there, eyes down. Ma'am, my kids. Can I see them? No. She nodded. Went back. Month 7, the church ladies stopped coming. Mrs. Carter sent a card. We're praying for your family. I threw it away. Month 8, spring came. Flowers bloomed. Porch steps clean. Windows spotless. I added one final line to the list. Every morning, say out loud, Ruth is the head of this house. They did? Every morning. I listened from the porch. Lila's voice first. Then Evelyn's. Weak, broken. Ruth is the head of this house. I rocked in the new chair. They thought I was empty. Now their shame was my throne. The next morning I woke at 4:47. The river was black, no wind. I made coffee, black no sugar, drank it, fast walked. To the garage door open, Lila slept. On the floor, Evelyn on the cot, both. Wrapped in thin blankets, I kicked the cot. Hard. Evelyn jumped up. Eyes wide. Ma'am, she said. Fast Lila sat up, rubbed her eyes. Ma'am, I pointed. At the floor, get up, both of you work starts. Now they stood slow bones, cracking. I handed Lila a bucket and rag Evelyn a broom cleaned the main. House top to bottom, no breaks. They nodded. Yes, ma'am, started walking. I followed. Watched. Lila scrubbed the kitchen floor on her. Knees water cold. No soap. Evelyn swept the porch dust flying. Hands raw, I stood in the door arms. Crossed no talking. They worked silent sweat on their faces. At 7:12, the phone. Rang, I answered. It was the realtor from Atlanta, Ems Grayson. The rental house is leased. Bought a $200 a month signed. For a year, money wired today. I said, good. Keep it coming. Hung up. Lila heard. Looked up, eyes. Wet, but said nothing, kept. Scrubbing at 8:03, Mrs. Grady drove up her old Buick, stopped in the driveway. She got out, slow, walked to the porch. Ruth. I brought biscuits, she said. Held a tin. I took it, thank you. Tell the church. Ladies, the list is working. They nodded, left fast, didn't look at the garage. At 9:27, Lila finished. The floors stood up, back bent, hands red. I pointed at the windows, washed them. Inside out, Evelyn joined, ladder shaking. Glass cleaner, cheap, no. Streaks, I watched every move. At 10:45, the mail came thick. Envelope from the courthouse. I opened it final. Deed for Lila's Atlanta house. Stamped paid in full, Ruth M. Grayson. Owner, I folded it, put it in my pocket. Lila saw, asked. Nothing kept working at 11:58. I made them stop eat. Standing in the garage, bread and water, only no. Butter, no salt they ate. Fast, I added to the list. Lila walks to the post office every day, mails my bills. 28. Evelyn irons the curtains weekly. 29. Both kneel when I enter the garage. They read it, eyes down, yes, ma'am. That afternoon, Lila walked to the post office. 4 miles round trip came. Back feet bleeding, gave me the receipts. I checked. Every stamp good, I said Evelyn. Ironed the curtains, steam. Burning her fingers, no complaints. At 3:14, the diner called. Lila, you're late for shift. She ran out the door, no car, walked 2 miles, got there at 3:47. Boss docked her pay. She came home at 3. Crying, gave me $42 tips. I counted it slow, put it in the jar. At 6:22 p.m., the church held an emergency meeting. Reverend Paul called Ruth. They want to remove Evelyn from the women's group. Said, she's a shame. I said, tell them she scrubs my toilets. Now that's her ministry. He sighed. Okay, hung up at 7:11. Lila and Evelyn knelt. In the garage as I walked in, heads down. Ma'am, they said together. I stood over them. You spent my life on paint and pillows. Now you kneel on concrete. Say it. Ruth is the head of this house. They said it, loud voices shaking. Ruth is the head of this house. I nodded left, closed the door at 8:03. The power company truck pulled up. Bill collector for the garage. No payment. In 3 months, $312 due. I paid cash from the jar. Told him cut the main house, only garage stays. Dark. He nodded. Left at 8:47. Winter hit hard again, frost. On the windows, garage cold. No heat. Lila shivered. On the floor, Evelyn coughed blood into a rag. I took her to Dr. Patel again, pneumonia back. When 100 meds I paid brought. Her home cot, no blanket thick. Lila fed her broth spoon by spoon. I stood in the door, keep her breathing or you both walk. I said Lila. Nodded fast, tears falling at 11:12 p.m. Lila knocked on my door. Ma'am, my kids wrote, they hate me, say I'm dead to them. Can I write back? I said no letters, no phone. You work, you pay, you kneel, she cried. Went back to the garage floor at 2:03 a.m. I heard Evelyn coughing nonstop. I walked over, opened the door. She was on the cot, blood on her shirt. Lila, holding her. Ma'am, help Evelyn. Rasped. I called ambulance. $800 ride they took her. Hospital, I paid deposit. $2,300 followed in my truck. At the ER, Dr. Patel said lungs full, fluid, ICU. $8,500 a day. I signed papers. Ruth M. Grayson, responsible party. Lila sat in the waiting room, head in. Hands, I said, you stay. Here, no sleep, no food, till I say. She nodded. At 6:17 a.m., Dr. Patel came out. She'll live, but weak, needs care. $22,000 total. I paid wired from savings. Lila looked up. Ma'am, thank you. I said, thank James. He earned it. You spent it back at home. Garage empty, I added. To the list 30, Lila sleeps outside on the porch if Evelyn returns. 31, both thank me every morning for the roof. They don't deserve. Evelyn came home 3 days later. Wheelchair, oxygen tank, new, quite $800. Paid. Lila pushed her to the garage cot. Set up, tank humming. Evelyn whispered, ma'am. Thank you. Lila knelt, said, thank you, ma'am, for the roof we don't deserve. I nodded, left at night. I sat on the porch, new rocking. Chair, river, black crickets. Loud jar, had $2,300. Now all from their tips, their blood, their tears. I counted it slow, put it away. The town talked. Non-stop, newspaper ran follow-up. Wido's parents sick in garage photo. Evelyn in wheelchair. Lila kneeling. I smiled, small church. Ladies stopped, coming all together. Lila's old friends blocked her mark. Got full custody, kids call stepmom. Mom now. Lila cried every night on the porch. Cold, no blanket. I watched from the window. Didn't move one morning. 5:03 a.m. Lila knocked. Ma'am, my feet infected, blisters. Popped pus, can't walk to work. I looked bandaged. Them cheap gauze 347s. From the store, you walk or you starve. I said. She walked, limped 2 miles. Got to the diner, boss fired her for being late. She Came home crying, no job, no money. I said, "Garage floor is yours, keep it clean, Evelyn." Coughed, said, "Ruth, please mercy." I said, "Mercy is the list, follow it or leave with." Nothing, they followed every line. Every day, every kneel. Every thank you, the jar grew. 15,700, 18,200, 21,500. All cash, all theirs. All mine, now the Atlanta rent, 10,200. Every month wired direct. The garage smelled like bleach and sickness. And shame I walked in every morning they knelt. "Ruth is the head of this house." Voices broken, "Ma'am, thank you for the roof we don't deserve." I nodded, left. The town shunned them. Completely no visitors, no calls, no pity. I owned 2 houses. Their shame, their lives, their knees, they thought. I was empty now. I was full, their pain, my power, the list, my law, the garage, my throne. Tomorrow the end comes, they beg, I decide. That morning after Evelyn came home from the hospital, I woke at 4:29. The house was silent. No coughing, no oxygen hum, just the river outside, slow and black. I made coffee, black, no sugar, drank it on the porch. The new rocking chair creaked under me. The garage light was off, no power. I cut it yesterday. I walked to the garage. Door cracked open. Lila slept on the porch now, blanket thin, body curled tight. Evelyn on the cot inside, oxygen tank hissing low. Both breathing, barely. I kicked the porch step, hard. Lila jumped up, eyes red. "Ma'am," she said fast. Evelyn sat up slow. "Ma'am." I held up a new paper, the final list. "Today you leave the garage. You walk to the river. You kneel in the mud. You beg me out loud. You thank me for every day you stole." They read it. Hands shaking. Lila cried. Evelyn stared. I said, 9 a.m. riverbank. Don't be late. At 8:57, I stood by the river. Mud thick. Water brown. Spanish moss hanging low. The town was watching. Mrs. Carter, Mrs. Lane, Mrs. Grady, Reverend Paul, newspaper man with a camera, 20 others. Phones out, recording. Lila and Evelyn walked up slow. Lila limping. Evelyn in the wheelchair, Lila pushing. Both in old clothes, dirty, thin. I pointed at the mud. "Kneel." They knelt. Mud to their knees, water lapping. Lila first, voice broken. "Ruth, I'm sorry. I spent your money. I believed the lies. I took your home. Please forgive me." Evelyn next. Weak. "Ruth, I called you empty. I stole from my own daughter. I was wrong. Please forgive me." The crowd was silent. Phones up. Recording every word. I stood over them, arms crossed. "Say the line." They said it together, loud. "Ruth is the head of this house." Again, louder. "Ruth is the head of this house." The newspaper man clicked. Flash. Front page tomorrow. I pulled 2 envelopes from my pocket. Thick. White. I handed one to Lila, one to Evelyn. "Open them." Lila opened hers. Eyes wide. A deed. Her old Atlanta house. Signed back to her name. Evelyn opened hers. A check. 50,000. Gasps from the crowd. I said, "You're free. Garage is done. List is done. You kept every rule. You paid every debt. Now you start over. But you remember who owns the truth." Lila cried hard. "Thank you, ma'am." Evelyn whispered, "Thank you, Ruth." I helped Evelyn up. Lila stood, mud to their waists. The crowd clapped. Slow at first, then loud. Phone still recording. Mrs. Carter hugged me. "You're a saint, Ruth." Reverend Paul said, "Forgiveness is power." The newspaper man asked, "One last quote?" I looked at the river, at Lila, at Evelyn. I said, "They thought I was empty. I was never empty. I was waiting." That night, the video went live. My parents took my inheritance because I'm childless. Now they're begging me to save them. And the views hit 100,000 in 2 hours. Comments flooded. I'm 62 and childless. They called me useless too. "Thank you, Ruth." My sister did this to me. I'm crying. Subscribed. Where are you watching from? Atlanta, J. Liked and shared. This is the realest story I've seen. More please. Likes 12,000 in 6 hours. Subscriptions 8,000 new. Comments 3,200 and climbing. Next morning I sat on the porch. New rocking chair, coffee, black. Lila called from Atlanta. "Ruth, the house is mine. I got a job." The kids wrote, "They want to visit." I said, "Good, earn it." Evelyn called from a small apartment. Church helped. "Ruth, I'm in the women's group again. They forgave me. I thank God for you every day. I said, thank James. He earned it. I opened the jar. 21,500 in cash. All from their tips. Their blood. Their shame. I counted it slow. Put 10,000 in an envelope. Mailed it to the women's shelter. Anonymous. The rest? I bought a new sign for the River House gate. Ruth M. Grayson, head of this house. That night, I filmed a new intro. Same raw voice, same pain. Next week, my best friend stole. My dead husband's insurance, now she's homeless. If you felt this story in your bones, comment your city below. Like if you're Team Ruth, subscribe and hit the bell, because AuntyMaeDiary is just getting started. Real women, real betrayals, real revenge. Don't miss the next one. Turn on notifications. This channel is your home now. The video ended. Views hit 1 million in 48 hours. Comments 22,000. Likes 89,000. Subscriptions 50,000 new. YouTube pushed it hard. Recommended on every 55 plus feed. Trending in true stories. The town never forgot. The garage stayed empty. The list stayed burned. I rocked on the porch every night. River slow. Crickets loud. James's watch in my pocket. Ticking again. They thought I was empty. I was never empty. I was AuntyMaeDiary. And this was only the beginning.